Good morning to you. Good afternoon to you. And good evening to you from wherever you are joining us. It is Mayegun Live. Please read the caption of the broadcast, the description, okay? There's more from where that is coming from, okay? Or read that, share it. Invite your friends, invite your not so friendly friends. Tell them that Mayegun today. There are things you need to know going on. They are important that you know them. Tell everybody. Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, they are up to something very great. And Nigeria will be the loser for it. You need to know. 729 billion naira cannot be accounted for by this Ajia, who happened to be the Minister of Disaster, Poverty Management, and whatever it is else. This woman shared over 720 billion naira to poorest Nigerians without a single record. But she is now asked to prove all of us wrong. How did she do it? Chat today as the Sunday sermon that we missed earlier. Thank you. Today, happy Sunday to everyone. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you. It is Mayegun Live, and it is Mayegun Says Sermon. Yourself as a viewer, you are considered as a Templar because this is the temple of truth. So you are welcome, and thank you for joining me. The news out there, ordinarily, I know some of you have been following the developments across the West Africa. I do not need to kind of revisit everything, but for context, the hardship being experienced across Africa has in it the collaboration of the people that the politically conscious people called the imperialists. These are those, the criminals in charge of different countries in Africa called investors. And what are they investing in? How much of their investment has changed the lives of an average African, especially the West Africans? So a revolution kicked off sometimes in 2022. Sorry, take it back. Sometimes in 2020 to 2021, I think it kicked off in Mali, when the military in some of these West African countries started going after their criminal political class. It happened in Mali, it happened in Guinea, it happened in Burkina Faso, it happened in Niger. That was when the supposed investors, France, that has held many of these West African countries hostage, economic hostage for years. They've had enough. So they needed an ally that could help them start a pseudo or proxy war. That was the time Pablo Escobar, the Jaga addict, the Jaga bandit, Tinubu became the president of Nigeria. He was so desperate for validation that he jumped on it to save the investors, imperialists. As a big brother, that kind of thrown many Africans off their feet. Like, what? Why would Nigeria want to wage war against the Niger Republic? For what? Nigeria under Tinubu said they wanted to go and restore democracy. The people in this country said they don't want democracy anymore. A lot of people in Nigeria who are living under the bondage of the false democracy, the ass lickers, the crumb eaters, the voluntary slaves of the contraption of Nigeria, especially the Agbadorians, the bastards. They were so eager. They said it will be done and done over with. Within 4 hours, Nigeria will kind of go to Niger Republic and free their leader. But before that, Tinubu declared sanctions on Niger, just like France and the West declared sanctions on Burkina Faso, on Mali, because they removed their own kleptomaniac criminal political class. The West was in bed with them. The people were the victims suffering for that. So they removed them. Then the West sanctioned the country to suffer more. And it happened to Niger Republic. Tinubu started sanctioning them. He cut off their electricity supply. He cut off their trade, supplies. He cut off everything. They didn't do anything to Nigeria. A lot of us sort of raised alarm, and thanks to David Undeyi, who eventually laid his hand on a memo that Tinubu has already mobilized over 10,000 Nigerian soldiers to the border of Sokoto and Niger in preparation to attack Niger Republic and force what they rejected on them. So in the whole of the melee, some felt like sanctions will force all these guys to surrender and follow the dictates of these Western powers. But somehow they found an unexpected ally in Russia. You see, for those of you who have been following the reading of these white malice, the reason why they truncated African independence and turned it into imperialism that we are suffering from today, them and their collaborators, indeed, was because they said Russians are communists. American, the West are, I don't know what they actually are. So for communism not to spread in Africa, that was how they truncated African independence, remember? Now it's like, this is now the comfortable ally for these countries that the West, who did everything in their world then to sort of truncate the Russian incursion into Africa, USSR. In this case, they were denied by the West that has enslaved them for long, using fake democracy, and then their big brother, Nigeria, that has now become the puppet of the same West, punishing them. Baba, the world was expecting the people to revolt of hunger and this or that. So the people supported them. So what happened? They got so much arms supplies. They got so much grains, wheat, and all of that kind of food supplies directly from Russia. This has sort of brought them more together, like closer, because They are supposed to be independent country. Do you understand? Like Nigeria is pretended to be an independent country, okay? They are still spending money that is printed for them by France. This their own foreign reserve, Central Bank of Niger Republic. Their deposit is domiciled in France, in Paris. They cannot withdraw the money in their own account, supposedly in their foreign reserve. They can only borrow from it with an interest imposed on them by France. All of this was going on. The criminal political class of these countries were comfortable because they were getting their shares. They were helping in the smuggling of the mineral resources from their country. And the proceeds from that, France is helping them to keep them away. So what kind of independent country still get their money printed for them by their colonial master? What kind of independent country cannot keep their own foreign reserve, their money in any other foreign country except in France? What kind of a foreign independent country will not have the right to withdraw from their savings, but they can only borrow from it with interest paid back to France, to French banks? All this came to light, and they consider themselves as, you know what, it can never be worse. It can't be as worse as what we have been through. And somehow they are becoming creative about it. And I told people closer to me today, I said, the only thing I smell from all of this, if my analysis is not going to make it sound like I am being paranoid or becoming a conspiracy theorist, I need you to pay attention. Okay? Pay attention to some of the few pieces of details that I'm going to try to fuse together. And I will leave you with whatever you think this whole thing is all about to you. Because it is only when you understand something that you can probably either try to fight or prevent your involvement. You know, there are times that you are dragged into something that you never had a say, but because you didn't really understand it, you didn't understand the damages this could be, you just look away until something happens later and you're like, how did we get here? So please pay attention, okay? It's important. This whole thing is going on diplomatically. The West was waiting for these people, for riot to break out, you know, for some other group to emerge, for some internal disagreement to happen, so that they can break this entire thing they call revolution. Initially, it was called coup, but we later discovered that it was actually revolution that the people of those countries have been waiting for to be carried out. They would have done it. They didn't have the power. Those who are protecting these criminals now turned on them, got rid of them, and it became their revolution. And that is why the support they have, the understanding they have managed to secure from their people became their building strength. And here we are now, with the help of Russia. Russia is now training with their own whatever expertise. So they are now training these countries, supplying them the needed weapons. They are giving them more, what do you call it, geographical sort of coverage in understanding the hideouts of the terrorists that are stationed across these Sahel states. France, UK, America, and a couple of them, they have been telling us that the reason why they needed bases in Africa was because they wanted to prevent the possibility of a terrorist using Africa as a recruitment ground and a launch pad to attack America. Unfortunately, for years that they have been having these bases in Africa, especially this Sahel region of Sahara Desert, rather than for this American presence, Western world presence to curb terrorism, it has made the entire region more volatile. The ethnic nationalities across these Sahel states, they have become more polarized, divided politically, courtesy of these Western countries. These Western countries have armed different sides to attack themselves, funding both sides, as long as they are busy killing themselves. And, their mineral resources, they won't have any time to even understand how much of their mineral resources are being stolen, unchecked. It's been working for a long time. Now, this guy said the presence of this France and the rest of these people in our region is not helping. It has never helped. Our situation, if they leave, our situation can be worse than what we have been through. So now they are actually going after, they are killing, these terrorists are killing their soldiers, right? But they are kind of understanding the people they are fighting better now, and they know those who are supplying them. You see, these understandings is such a huge problem that somehow, countries who are already poor, but they are being subjected to more hardship sanctions, sort of a conspiracy among the supposed world power that should think about the people living in these countries. They don't give a damn about them. So now, these guys are now building from this whole gang up against them. They are building from it, charting some new course that generations to come will thank them for it. So let me tell you, they have been mulling the idea initially when these whole sanctions were coming from everywhere. For no reason. Why are you attacking us? Have you even looked into why this is happening in our countries? Like, why are you siding with those who have kept us poor intentionally? So they withdrew themselves from all of these African organizations that were like being sponsored by the West as well. The African Union building built in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, is built by the Chinese. China constructed the entire building. Majority of all these rogues, before they call them, they are going to Sweden to go and hold African Summit in Sweden. They are going to China to go and hold African Summit. They are going to America they are obeying people that probably don't even have to visit Africa, but they are deciding what happened in Africa through those puppets. So these guys withdrew themselves from all those groups. You can't help us. There's no point in being part of you. So they kept getting supply. And surprisingly too, China. China is also on board with them. Where their industries, electricity generation that will no longer, that will make it, that will make them, power independent, to have their own electricity without anybody turning off the electricity. Not caring about their hospitals, their schools, and institutions that need this electricity to survive. People who need them. Nigeria didn't care. They turned it off. Now they are already contemplating the idea of using their own uranium, the one that America want to protect from Russia. Now Russia have access to that uranium now. Yes, they do. Not because Russians don't have their own uranium, not because Americans don't have their own uranium, but the thing is that Africa is a place where everybody can survive on for now until there's nothing there anymore. Then they can possibly go back to theirs. Now, the owners of all these resources are now deciding who should have access to them. And guess what? The Russians are now working with them in planning on how to use the same uranium and every other resources in that place to generate nuclear power. Electricity that doesn't go off ever. Forever and ever. So, these are all the things on the table. This is part of all the things on the table. Economically, Nigeria cut off their trade, their trade connection. It cut them off. Transactions, bank transactions between Nigeria and Niger Republic and few of these countries were cut off. They later reinstated them. But then, these guys have already started developing theirs. So, to make themselves work now, they are like, you know what? If the population of Niger Republic is 22 million, the population of Mali is 25 million. Or the population of Burkina Faso is 30 million. I'm just using these random numbers now because I'm not sure what their populations are exactly, right? They now believe that if you put all these populations together, we are like about 60 million or 70 million people. If you have 70 million people, you can build the economy on them. You can actually build something, you can build your currency, you can trade among yourselves. And the level of trade, the volume of trade between all of you is enough to sustain you. If you share your security together, you share your infrastructural development together, you share your economic ideas together, and you are also sharing your monetary policies together. Now you can build a strong block that this issue of dollars or euros or whatever other currencies that they are using to trade. Now you can now decide, this is the power there. You can now decide that, listen, you see us in this block, we are called so and so. The name of our currency is called this. Now, if you want to buy anything from our country, you would have to buy in our currency. And that simply means we will decide how much is going to be the exchange rates as the value for that resources you desperately want to take from us. Listen, they said, the moment they told all the French companies extracting free resources that they were selling, they were selling French companies, they were selling kilos of some of these resources at so much ridiculous prices that it was pretty much like a giveaway. Imagine buying a kilo. I'm using kilo now. I don't know what they use in measuring uranium, right? Or maybe not tons, right? Anyway, let's say, imagine selling a ton of uranium, selling that for £5. And you can take like 1 million tons of uranium, which will fetch you over, let's say, for example, it will fetch you over maybe $100 billion. But you only pay £5 million for it because you are just like, it's just like a takeaway. Yeah? So you will be so rich, the owners of this will be so poor, and that money is not even given to them. The money is deposited in France. So if they need the money in Niger, they will need to go and borrow the money in France. This is what they have been subjected to for long. Now, with their own block, this is the economic sense in it. Whatever they are growing, their food, and anything they are actually trading between themselves, right? They have refinery. Do you know that? Nigeria is refining crude oil from Niger Republic. I don't know if you remember that. Yes, the refinery is owned by Nigerians. Okay, maybe not, but they have their investment there. I'm just saying, just so you know that they have all it takes to generate their own electricity. They have all it takes to generate, to build their own economy, grow their own food, strengthen their own currency. Now, if you want to trade with them, you want to go and buy cows from Nigeria. You want to go and buy ram. You want to go and buy livestock from Niger Republic to bring to Nigeria. You're not going to buy them in franc. You're not going to pay them in naira. You will buy with the currency they say is their currency. You will exchange it at the rate they want you to exchange it. As Nigeria is an enemy nation, you can only imagine what that means. 3 countries coming together with the population of over 70 million. That is something. With the resources that the West and the East want to kill themselves for, they can decide how much they are sold. They will be so rich in no time. Not only that, they will be respected. Now they've started. Just so you know. They have now started. They are turning the punishment and sanctions that the colonialists was sort of unleashing on them. They are now turning that into something of strength. Nigeria is still there, waiting for the reform, the this, the that to happen. They are looking at them. Some of those of you who were laughing at them, you call them poor nation today, but they are actually making some decisions. I know it's not going to happen so easily. But what do they have to lose? Eh? America will not let them. Kinikon will not let them. These guys are no longer living in that fear anymore. That's something you should see. They are making these bold steps because they are not sitting back crying. See what they are doing to us. Because we told them to leave, they have destroyed our country. Because we told them to leave us alone. Look at what they are doing. They are not doing that. They know they will do this to them. So, what do we have to lose for trying? Having our own common currency, generating our own electricity that we share among ourselves. So to our people enough that,